Well, I think we got a long way to go. Look, this was a big boost for us. I think we're going to do well in a number of states, but Super Tuesday we're only 3 days away, and we're in a situation where we're just beginning to raise the kind of money we thought we'd be able to raise in the front end. We've raised about $18 million this month, $5 million just since the victory or during the victory in South Carolina. So we're feeling good. But it's a long way to go, Jake. Well, I haven't had any conversations along those lines. I think it's going to be a decision for the rest of the field to make as they move forward. I'm not going to presume to tell anyone they should drop out and take on Bernie Sanders. I think everyone knows that it's going to be much more difficult to win back the Senate and keep the House if Bernie's at the top of the ticket. But that's a judgment for them to make, and I think that'll sort of work itself out in the near term. Well, I was in North Carolina yesterday up in Raleigh. We had 1,000 people show up. The idea that there's a direct correlation between the number of people who rally and the number of people who turn out. We had the largest turnout in South Carolina, and I think that was no small part because of our campaign. And we won every single solitary county in the state. And as you said, we won convincingly. That doesn't mean I'll do that everywhere, but what's happening is that look, people aren't looking for a revolution, in my view. What they're looking for is they're looking for results. They're looking for getting things done. And Bernie doesn't have a very good track record of getting things done in the United States Congress, the United States Senate, and much of what he's proposing is very, very much pie in the sky. He's talking about spending $60 trillion and not raising taxes on the middle class and being able to get it done quickly and so on. I've laid out clearly how we can get a health care plan covering everybody and have a Medicare option for those who want it, and we can get it done quickly. I've laid out a game plan as to how we can get things done. And I will be honest with you, I mean, he hadn't had much of a record of getting anything done in the United States House of Representatives or the Senate. I think he's passed 7, 8 bills. I don't know. He's worked with John McCain. We were talking about John earlier off the record here. John, he did some good work on veterans. He's on the Veterans Committee. But I've gotten major things done. I'm able to cross the aisle and get things done. And so I think it's about, who can not only win, bring along a Senate and keep a House, the House of Representatives, but who can then get something done. And that's for the public to decide, obviously, but that's the case I'm trying to make. Well, it's about addition, not subtraction. We're bringing on each of these primaries and/or caucus states. When they go by, we bring on more and more people of real competence and consequence. And he's right about the fundraising. But for example, just last night we raised $5 million online. We've raised about $18 million so far just this month. Things are beginning to change, and he's right. And I listened to his counsel, and I listen to his counsel relative to how I can get better as well. And so this is about addition, not subtraction. And going into Super Tuesday, we have in Super Tuesday states 340 major endorsements. We don't have the troops on the ground because we haven't had the money to get that done. But we're going to do, I think, better than anybody expects. And then we move into states where I'm confident we're going to be able to win on primaries like Florida and Georgia and other places. So I think this is a marathon. We got to continue to improve. That's what it's all about. And I think that's what's happening. I know what I would have done differently, what we did in the Ebola crisis. I heard Vice President say they set up an office in the White House. We had an office in the White House. After us dealing with a pandemic that could have been incredibly dangerous and affected the world, Ebola, we set up an entire mechanism as to how to deal with future outbreaks of pandemic diseases. They eliminated that office when they came in play. They cut the funding for CDC. They did not, in fact, want to keep they tried to cut the funding in terms of HHS. And so look, here, we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming back as far as January. They didn't even begin to prepare the testing kits. I mean, this is something that's kind of elementary. We talked about testing kits. We're now going to get them. Well, I don't want to talk down the possibility of us being able to do this well. But, the idea that Donald Trump said just several days ago this was a Democratic hoax, what in God's name is he talking about? What in God's name is he talking about? Has he no shame? We're in a situation where, and I respect Vice President Pence and him being put in charge, but we should be hearing from the scientists. He mentions Fauci. Fauci's been there since Bush, all through presidents. We listened to him. He was a spokesperson. He was out in front. Let the scientists speak. Let them tell us what's going on. Let them prepare us. Let them prepare the country. Let them be the ones expanding how they're going to provide the protective gear for hospitals that are intake hospitals. And as you pointed out, Jake, the fact is that the other nations have had thousands of tests so far. What are we doing? Why are we just getting started? I would have not dismantled the organization we had put in place in the first place. I would have made sure we had American scientists in China, insisting we know what's happening in China, and I would be doing the same thing in Europe where it's now spread. The idea that this is not a pandemic, that this is not worldwide, that it's not going to get worse, doesn't mean we're going to die, but it's going to get worse, is absolutely bizarre. I mean, look, the rules have been set, and I find a lot of folks in Bernie's operation are now saying that whoever goes in with the most delegates, even if they're not close or they're a distance from the 19+100 that we need, they should be declared the winner. I wonder where that view was when he was challenging Hillary after she went in with a commanding lead. Look, you don't change the rules in the middle of the game, and I'm not at all certain that we're right. I'm not a pundit. I don't know that we're going to win with Bernie ahead. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm ahead, but we'll see. But I think you play by the rules. I think that enthusiasm does not necessarily translate into votes. You saw more people voted yesterday in South Carolina, I'm told, than I think in the primary than any other time, the largest turnout. And I won every single solitary county. Every single solitary county. Doesn't mean that holds for every state. But, I think people aren't looking for a revolution. They're looking for results. They're looking for who can not only beat Donald Trump, but who can keep a Democratic House of Representatives and who can bring along a Democratic Senate. And that means you got to be able to compete in almost every state from the top of the ticket. And it's just a matter of fact. If you're going to try to win a seat in Georgia or North Carolina or South Carolina or Florida, who do you want on the top of the ticket? So I think I think the confusion is that and that I don't have any support of young people. I do. I got about 30% of the people that are anyway. So the point is, I think this is just a long game here, but people want results. They're not looking for revolution. They want results. They want a return of decency. They want to be able to get things done. And I have a record that is far superior on those two issues than Bernie's. Well, based on what I understand the deal to be, and there's changes that we're all being made aware of, is that there is no commitment required on the part of the Taliban that they will not support al-Qaeda or the terrorist organizations that they have supported before, or let live in that area. And the number of the troops that are talking about being drawn down only takes you down to the number of troops that were there when we left office. And I think it's very important that they have a commitment from the Taliban that, in fact, they are not going to support al-Qaeda. They're not going to support those organizations that use the Western Pakistan and Afghanistan to launch attacks against the United States. I'm sorry. Again, I've not read the deal. I just know it's been reported. I was under the impression that we had to begin to draw down, period, whether or not that has ever have been demonstrated yet. But here's the deal. As you know, Jake, I was against surging troops to Afghanistan in the first place. We're not nation builders. We can't build that nation. We should not be in the business of doing that. But we should have a small footprint to be able to determine whether or not there are terrorist organizations operating in the region that are planning attacks against the United States. And we should have cooperation from the Afghan government on that and a commitment from the Taliban that they will not in any way support that effort.